Hello, and thank you for watching my video on data frames in R. Data frames are special matrices in R, which can have headers and various data types in the columns. And I will show you in this video how to import a data set in R using data frames, how to create a data frame out of scratch in R, and how to export a data frame into a CSV file. Let's get to work. So imagine that you have a data file already in a CSV file, and you would like to import it into R. Then the easiest is to use read.csv. Now, first I will show you for the CSV extension, and then I will show you how to use another type of extension if you have a TXT extension or a data extension, how to do this. Now, first with the read.csv. So you write read.csv, then you specify the location of your file. So location, and it can be a location on your computer or the link address, the web link. Then you specify the header. Do you have headers? You write true if you have headers, and you write false otherwise. And actually, if you do not write anything in header, it defaults to true. And then a CSV extension means comma-separated values, but some CSVs can have different things than commas between the values. For example, a French CSV does not have commas between the values, but guess what? Semicolons. So if you want to change this comma between the values to something else, for example, semicolons, you need to write at the end sep equals, and you specify the separator. So, for example, you would write, for commas, you would write apostrophe, comma, apostrophe, if commas separate the values that you have in your data set. And it defaults to commas. Now, if you have a French CSV, you will write that the sep is equal to apostrophe, semicolon, apostrophe, if semicolons separate the values. You would write, you can have something else also between the values. You can have spaces. For spaces, you write apostrophe, apostrophe, or you apostrophe, space, apostrophe is the same if spaces separate the values. And finally, you will write apostrophe backslash t if tabs separate the values. Now, what if you have a different extension, say a TXT extension? Then you will write read.table. You specify, just like above, the location of your file. Then you write header, just like above, header equals true if you have headers, and false if you do not have headers. And you specify the separator if you want to change it. By the way, the header here, guess what? It does not default to true as in the read.csv, but to false. And finally, the separator. The specification is the same as above. But the default is not comma, but empty space. Now, both read.csv and read.table create an object in R that is called data.frame. And what is a data.frame? It's simply a special matrix with possibly headers and various data types in the columns. For example, you can have numbers in a column, you can have dates in another column, etc., etc. Let's see an example immediately to make it more concrete. So I use here a data set that I collected with my students. I did a happiness survey, and the data set can be downloaded from my website. So if you Google my name, Veronica Stellar, then you will see on the left in the teaching, if you click on teaching, the last item is R programming. And in R programming, you have some data sets, and the last one is happiness.csv. So let's download it. And if I open the data set, then we will see that I asked actually several questions to my students. The first one was give your happiness score on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being the most unhappy state and 10 being the happiest score. Then the second question was give your stress level on a scale from 1 to 10, 1 being the least stressed state and 10 being the most stressed score. And then there was a question on the expected salary. What is the student's expected salary 3 years after graduation? This is the salary in gross yearly salary in euros. And finally, the last question was about the nationality. Are you French or not? And we can, by the way, since we have a CSV extension, if you're not sure what are the values that separate your values, the easiest is to open your file with a text editor. I open it here with Notepad, and I see that I have commas separating the values. So it's a traditional CSV file indeed. So yes, in the exercise first, I will download this data set. I was actually lucky. I had 119 students participating in the survey. So let's analyze a little bit the answers. So we will first download the data set, assign A to the data frame. Let's open the R console and write, since it's a CSV extension, I write read.csv and the location of the file. Since it's a little bit long, the location of the file, I will first assign a lowercase a value to the location, and I need to use an apostrophe for the address. What is the address of my data set? I have an open link here. If I click on happiness.csv, I can actually copy the link address. Here you go. And now I write read.csv and I specify the location. I don't need to specify anything else because for header, header defaults to true, and in my data set, I indeed have headers. And what else? The separator defaults to comma, and I just checked, indeed we have commas in the data set. So everything is fine. All right, and we said that we need to assign an uppercase A to this data frame. It downloaded the data, and let's print the first two students' answers. Here you go. The first student was a very happy student. The second one was also quite happy. And then what else do we have in this exercise? Let's redo this exercise, but using a txt extension. So indeed, I will download the happiness.txt. The same data set is reported, can be found on my website with the txt extension. So I simply right click to copy the link address, and I will write here again within apostrophes the location, and then we will write read.table, right? And I specified the location. Then, do I have headers? I do have headers, so I will write true. Here I cannot omit it because the default is false. And I specify my separator. What do I have? Let's open the data set between the values. I downloaded the data set. If I open it, I have tabs that separate the values, not the empty space. So I will write apostrophe \t apostrophe. Here you go. I download the data and I print the first two students' answers, and indeed I have the same values as above. Let me print the output and the code here. Here you go. First exercise has happened. Let's move to something different. We will now since I have headers, let's try to use them, right? Happiness, stress, expected salary, etc. How to use these the variable names? So to call the variables by their names, we can do it. There are several ways to do it in R. The two simplest ones are with the dollar and with brackets. So let's see how to use it with the dollar. Well, first I write the name of the variable, of my variable. Then I write dollar and name of data frame. Then dollar and variable name. Or I can do it in a different way. I write again the name of the data frame. Same thing as above. And then I write bracket. I open a bracket. I put a comma and apostrophe. And within apostrophes I specify the variable name. Then apostrophe and I close my bracket. Let's see another exercise. Back to our happiness survey. I would like to display the happiness score of the first student in the data. So I can do it. I go back to my R console and I write A, because I assigned A to my data frame, and I specify the happiness variable name, and I simply want it for the first student, so I write 1 within brackets, right? So it's 10. Indeed, we have seen that we have very happy student in the first, the first person who participated in the survey was a very, very happy student. And then what else do we want to display? We would like to display the sample mean of the happiness score. By the way, before doing it, let's practice with the second way of displaying the displaying the happiness of the first student, we said that instead of dollars, I can use brackets, and then I write a comma, and within apostrophes, I specify the variable name, right? Then I close my bracket, and again, I only want to display it for the first student, right? Same, of course, the same answer. Now, let's move to the second part. We would like to display the sample mean of the happiness score. So I write mean, and I will use the dollar again. So A, and then happiness. And I have, so students, the average happiness score is 7.48 basically. So we have we had quite happy students in this cohort. And what else do we have in this exercise? Draw a histogram of the happiness score. Histogram is hist. And I again specify $8 happiness. And I have the histogram that is displayed somewhere. Here it is. I have my happiness histogram. So we have a nice skewed histogram here. We have more happy students on the right. And let's save this output. Here it is. Now, how say that I would like to deal now, let's analyze a little bit more this data. Say that I would like to select some students satisfying some condition. I want to select students with high expected salary, high expectations or low expectations or something like this. How can I do this? I can, when I specify the variable name, I can also actually select some students. I can specify a condition in a variable, and it's not just in this specific example. We can select the components of a data vector in general in R, satisfying a condition by using brackets. How can I do this? Well, I write the name of my vector, name of the vector, data vector, and within brackets I specify the condition. And let's see immediately an example to be more concrete. Calculate now the mean happiness score of French students, and then we'll do the same thing for non-French students. So back to my R console. We said we want, let me just see the exercise once again. The French students first, the happiness sample mean of happiness, but only for French students. And French students in the data set wrote a yes. So $8 French, right? Because that's my in the data set, that's my variable name. And French is equal to yes for French students. And by the way, a condition when I write equal, you need to write a double equal. And I close my parentheses. It's 7.5. So the average happiness score for French students is 7.5. Let's see for non-French students. The sample mean is slightly below 7.45, but they are very close to one another. So here is the output. Now, let's do something else now. I would like to now we know how to import a data set and create a data frame. But what if I want to create a data frame inside R? How to do this? Well, it's very intuitive. You simply write data.frame. And then what do? You enumerate the matrices and vectors that you want to put inside. So here you enumerate the matrices and vectors separated by commas. And you can give names, you can put headers to columns and actually to rows as well using call names. And within call names, you specify the name of your data frame. And then you write equals, C, like when you create a data vector, parentheses, and you specify within apostrophes your variable names. That you want to give. And if you want to have row names, it's possible as well. You write row names, parentheses, you specify the name of the data frame, and you write, just like for column names, your variable names. Let's see an example. Let's continue with our leitmotif example. Let's create now a data frame B containing the sample means of happiness and stress levels, but for two groups of students. The first group of students has an expected salary that is greater than 65,000 euros. And we will call this group of students high exp, like high expectations. And the second group of students have low expectations, an expected salary lower than or equal to 65,000. And we'll denote these students by low exp, like low expectations. And we want to give column names, happy for the first column, stress for the second column, and we also want to give row names, low exp for the first row. I actually want to have the students in this group, the low expectation students in the first row and high expectation in the second row. All right, so I go back to my R console and I write so we said, well, I will first create, let's go back to my exercise. I will first create the first column. First column needs to be happy, right? So I need to enter the mean happiness scores for these two groups of students. Let's assign lowercase a to this sample mean. Sample mean of what? Of the happiness score. So $a happiness. Of which students? Well, in the first row, we said that I would like to have in the first row, I would like to have the low X group. Low X group. So these are the students who have an expected salary that is less, sorry, there is a typo, expected salary that is less than or equal to 65,000, right? And in the second row, I want the high expectation group, so I simply change this to greater than 65,000, and I assign a lowercase b letter to this sample mean. And let's call this vector just v, the first vector of my data frame. And then I do the same thing, but now for in the second column, I want to have the stress levels, right? The mean stress levels. So I just like above, but this time instead of happiness, I want the stress level. But yes, I want to have it, of course, first in the first row, I have the low expectation group. And in the second row, I have the high expectation group. And let's denote by W the second column of my data frame. And now finally I can write data.frame, B equals data.frame, and I want to have V and W in this data frame, right? And before we display it, let's also give the names. I want to have column names happy for the first column. So I write call names. For B, I want to have happy. And we said that the second column needs to have a stressed header, stressed variable name. And I also want row names to be given. And for this, I want to have low exp for the first row and high exp for the second row. That's right. And let's display B. Here you go. I have, so students with low expectations have a higher happiness score than those with high expectations, high expected salary. And they're also less stressed. Students with low expectations, they are less stressed than students with high expectations. So basically, having high expectations is a little bit dangerous for students' health. That's right. So let's copy. Let me copy this and paste it in my lecture notes. Here you go. And now that I have this nice data frame, let's export it. Say that I would like to save it in a CSV file. So to export a data frame into a CSV file, you simply write write.csv, and it works a little bit like the read.csv function. So I write write.csv, then I specify the data frame that I want to export, and then the location, and file name, of course. And then you specify whether you have column names, call.names equals true if you have column names, and false otherwise. And you specify whether you have row names with row.names, true if you have row names, and false otherwise. And both default to true. So let's see the end of this exercise. We will now export the data frame B that we created into a happy.csv file. So we said that we write write.csv. I specify the data frame. I give the location. Well, you pick a location, your favorite location on your computer. For me, it will be this. I will put it on the desktop. And I call it happy.csv. And do I have a column names? Yes. Do I have row names? Yes. So I don't change them. I don't specify them. It's already specified by default. It did something or did not complain. Let's check it on my desktop. I indeed have a happy.csv file. I open it. What do we have inside? Well, indeed, I have the happy column, the stress column, low exp row, and high exp row. So this is basically it. This is all I wanted to share with you. Good luck with data frames, and thank you for watching.